Hey everybody, today I'm going to be doing a chest freezer cold plunge video. What I tried to do for this video is first I watched every single video on YouTube on the subject of chest freezer cold plunge conversions. So I think I learned a lot about what people did right, what people did wrong. I tried to bring those all together here for you. Doesn't mean I'm not gonna do anything wrong, so bear with me. But I'm going to walk you through this whole process from start to finish, give you all the links you need to follow up and order what you need to on Amazon and other sites, and have a little fun. So let's get started. Okay, so first up is the freezer. I ordered a Frigidaire, and I'll put a link to the model number later, but if you're in a hurry, that's it right there. Pause it, write it down. So what I did, some of the videos told you to measure your shoulder width, measure the length from your back to feet when you're sitting kind of with your knees bent, and obviously measure your height. And when I took all my measurements, this seemed to be the best option. It was about $550, $600. I got this one on Walmart.com. You can buy them used. You don't have to use this size. Some people use very small ones where they just kind of kneel inside of it. I just wanted something a little bit bigger where I could stretch out. So what's going to happen here when you sit, this houses the compressor, so you don't want to sit on that. Plus, if you get the filter, I'm recommending you want to put the filter on there. But your backside will sit right here, and then your knees will be slightly bent, and the water will come up to the edge, obviously. But I took the cover off, as you can see. Very, very simple to take the cover off. These two screws are just set screws, so you actually remove the top two. Just loosen these, and it'll pop right out. Make sure when you unscrew these that the lid is open so the spring is released, otherwise it'll pop back on you. And then the only thing you need to do for the light, I think it's just for the light, when you take the lid off, you'll have to pop this off, which is real simple to do. But feels like a good freezer, not real heavy, fit through my doors. So that's it. I'm gonna show you the next step. Okay, so there were a lot of people, most people used this on the seams, JB water weld. Some people used waterproof silicone, but for the most part, this was the most common, so I thought I'd use that. It's basically a putty, is what it is. You can see it, and I will tell you the most important part of working with this stuff is make sure that you knead it properly when you before you apply it, and you knead it until the color is consistent, which that's what it says on the directions, but I didn't do a real great job on reading directions. I just jumped right in. If you mix it properly, you'll get a color, kind of an off gray, and I know that doesn't look beautiful, but we're gonna seal it up with something else here, and I think it'll look a lot better when it's done. But these are all the seams that I sealed, and you can see where I didn't mix it properly. It gets that gray, and it's a little tacky right there. I think it's going to be okay, but you can see I did it right here, no color issues. So just mix that stuff real well, and these are the seams that you want to, if you have this specific chest freezer, these are the seams you want to make sure you hit. These edges are actually molded in, so what I didn't do, we'll see how it goes, but I did not put a seam under here. There looked like there was already a small seam of caulk, and I'm not planning on splashing around too much. And I'm also going to seal it with Pond Shield. That's going to be my next step. So that's the JB water weld. Okay, for the next step, I used a product called Pond Shield, which you've probably seen on other videos. One last thing I wanted to remind everybody on the water weld. I went ahead and just put the cap in and put water weld all over that. There were a lot of people online in their videos that complained of it leaking from there because they didn't seal it properly or they wanted to leave it so that they could drain it easier, but I would just plan on siphoning out the water when you need it. So this is coat 1, just finished coat 1. My recommendations on this pond shield, this is the product right here. It took 1 box to do 1 coat. You're supposed to put the second coat on within 10 hours of the first coat, so I'm going to do that in a little bit. But read these directions very, very carefully. Twice, 3 times. I use the alcohol used method. I feel like that was probably a little bit thinner and a little bit easier to apply. So far, so good. And I also use the it's a 99% isopropyl alcohol. That's what we use for that. I just got it on Amazon. But so far looks pretty good, and we'll put a second coat on. Some people come up over the edge here. I did not. Didn't really see a need to. Not going to be splashing around a whole lot, but overall looking good so far. Be right back. Okay, I just got the second coat on. It's looking good. The instructions for pond shields say 24 hours, but I'm going to go with another YouTuber who recommended 7 days and let it cure. I'm going to, in room temperature, so that's good. So it should cure pretty fast. But the one thing I was going to tell you on this is you can see those drips. You got to come back to it while it's drying about every 20 or 30 minutes and brush out some of those drips. I didn't do a real great job of that. And then obviously make sure you get over the water weld on all those seals real well. And again, seal that cap off with water weld and with pond shield. But looking good. The pond shield wasn't too bad to work with. Just make sure you follow the instructions on the mixing and the measurements. Have everything ready to go. It says, only use what you can use in 20 minutes. It took me about, 15, 20 minutes to do the whole thing. So I just did the whole can of each. And for each coat, I did the whole can of each, mix them, but make sure you do the hardener and then the alcohol, get that a good consistency, and then add the pigment. And make sure when you order pond shield, you check the color, because there's all kinds of colors. I went with white. I accidentally ordered tan and had to send that back, but just watch the color. One last thing on the pond shield application, there was a lot of discussion about what kind of roller to use. I would use this one. You'll see it in the stores. It's a microfiber cloth. That seems to work the best. I also ordered these guys here, but I'm sending them back because I just didn't like the way this looked. You don't want to get any fibers in the pond shield, and I didn't have any fiber issue with this guy here. So okay, so next I'm going to box this thing in with some wood paneling using 6-inch tongue and groove. But first I just took some liquid nails, sanded down the areas where I'm going to put the supports for the tongue and groove, and they say it has to set for about 24 hours, so probably won't go the full 24 hours, but just letting these set on here. I'm just going to do the 3 sides to leave the back open so it can vent properly, plus nobody's going to see the back. So working on that right now. This is the liquid nails product that I'm using for the application, and I'm going to use the number 6 1¼ inch screw. The 1½ inch screw looked like it was gonna go through the casing of the cooler, so I didn't want to use that, so I've got these. When I glued these on at the top, these are 1x2s. I left enough space so that when I'm finished, that 1x2 would fit cleanly along the edge. So when you do it, just make sure you leave enough space at the top so it perfectly fits one of these 1x2s. Okay, so we're coming along here. I would highly recommend, obviously you're going to put these in first with liquid nails, And then I would put these pieces on next because they act as a nice guide and kind of self-levels the tongue and groove. As you put it up, you put the first one on and then just make sure you cut them evenly. I'm extending it basically to the level of this, so that front piece covers it up nicely. But so far so good. We're gonna get this done hopefully today. I'm a little bit short. These are 6-inch pieces. I might have to take some off the bottom piece of tongue and groove there before I put it on, but it's only about 1/2 inch short. If you actually had it on a higher leg, it would be fine, but I don't want to do that. And on this side, I didn't get too fancy. I just left the bottom vent open. Nobody's going to see that side of it anyway. There was another YouTuber that did a much better job, much cleaner. You can probably find that if you search, but nobody was going to see it, so I just hid that side of it anyway. My two sides are going to be this front and this side right here. Once this thing has water in it, it ain't moving a whole lot. All right, so there is the finished wood trim. The bottom piece I had to rip a little bit off of one of the 6-inch planks. You might be able to get there by using a combination of 8-inch and 6-inch planks, but it wasn't that big of a deal to just rip that bottom one, make it even. Next I'm gonna put the lid back on and get to work on framing out wood on the lid. So that's the final deal. Got this side open at the bottom so it can breathe, and then the back I did not do so it can breathe as well. Okay, I'm now framing out the lid. I've got the lid back on. I would recommend cutting each one of these pieces out individually and just hand fitting each one rather than measuring all at once. But I started with the ends, and then I did around the handle. There's a little bit of a curvature to the handle. You can just see that right there. So you gotta kind of be cautious when you cut those. And then I did the middle and then the outside 4 pieces. So got them weighted down and waiting for that to set, and then I'll add the planks to the edge right here and the planks to the middle, and we should be good to go. So we've got the braces done for the top boards. These guys were a little tricky. There's not really a good way to do this. I ended up gluing it with liquid nails to the actual side of the cooler. When you put it on, you have to be careful, number one, that the door still seals when it shuts. And also I just took a piece here and just kept running it along this line to make sure that I've got it even for when I put the boards on. It'll go like this. But I had to redo it because I got the boards were actually too low, so they were pushing against the seal and the door wasn't sealing, but I got it pretty good shape right now. It's just that glue is an awkward spot, but once we get the boards on, I might be able to screw it. And you also, I don't know, may want to lay the boards down first and then put the trim on. That might have been easier, but for now we're doing it this way. Thanks. Okay, here is the finished product. I'm debating about staining it or not. I might seal it with a polyurethane. This last piece I did not use liquid nails on. It was a little messy on the side, and you can see I actually ended up screwing this in. So on this front panel I just screwed it in. I will say that if you box in the lid, you'll need some kind of support because it does make it heavy, and It will slam on somebody's head if you don't have a support. I'm probably gonna hook up a chain to the top of it and just connect it to the wall somewhere, just as kind of a safety. But I've seen other people that put a brace in it. It does look good, but it does add a lot of weight to the lid, and it won't stay open on its own. Okay, so this is the finished product here. I found this from a YouTuber, and forgive all the plastic shavings in the bath right now because I just did some work. I'll show you in a minute, but those will filter out. But this is a YouTuber that specifically builds these for this type of cold plunge. You don't have to have the step. You can rotate the filter so that it's facing the other direction if you don't have a step, but it's a little pricey compared to maybe doing it yourself, but it's tested. People that use it seem to change or clean the filter about every 3 months. It's got this pre-filter, which is nice. You just pop that off, rinse it off, and then you can see down in the water it has an optional vacuum, and you plug that in to where that normally is. I keep it submerged just because it needs to be filled with water for it to work, so I just leave it in there. The other thing I did, and I tried to use kind of a burning tool at first, but that just created a lot of smoke, and you can see some of the burn marks there. So I took a Dremel and I took this head, and that was actually really easy. It just creates a mess, so you may want to do it before you put water in it. But otherwise, these cords pinch pretty badly, and if you want to get air into it. The nice thing about this Apex is it's got a little port for your ozone, or just air if you just want to pump air to it. And then I got this guy on Amazon. I don't know, I think it was 120 bucks, 125, but it's got a water function. It's got a little port back here for the water. And then what I normally do, I don't think you want to run this thing all the time, so what I normally do is after I cold plunge, I just run it, set the timer for 60 minutes to sanitize the water, and you're good to go. So I'm not using any chemicals, didn't want to do that. Thought it might be harsh on the liner. And you can see the temperature probe down in the water there. We're setting ours at a set point of 48. And this is the Inkbird. Make sure you get the Inkbird with the waterproof head on it. There's one that's for air, there's one that's for water. So get that, then you just set it. Make sure you always unplug the cooler before you plunge, just in case. The other thing I did is just put a light coat of paint, white paint on this, so that it's not quite as bright. It's pretty bright light. You can actually probably just take the bulb out if you want to. But day 2 this morning of cold plunge went well. My wife's doing much better than I am on the breathing, but seems to be getting better every day. She's at about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm at about 3 or 4 minutes, and feel great. Slept great last night, so hopefully it'll keep working. Thanks. On these channels that I carved, I also threw water weld in there just to make sure it's sealed up real well, water doesn't get down inside of it. You'll hit a little metal frame back here and right here, and you want to seal that because it'll just drop water right down into it if water spills over.